Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse on April 9th marked the conclusion of the Civil War. But what made Appomattox the place where Lee gave up? By 1865, the South was in dire straits. They faced severe shortages of troops and supplies, while the Union Army grew stronger as African American soldiers enlisted in large numbers aiming to end slavery in the United States. In June 1864, the Union advanced to seize the Confederate capital of Richmond as the Army of the Potomac crossed the James River. They soon besieged Petersburg, a key supply and railroad hub south of Richmond, intending to cut off Confederate resources and force evacuation. The Confederates fiercely defended Petersburg for over 9 months using trenches and fieldworks. Still, knowing their defenses and supplies couldn't last much longer, General Lee left Richmond and Petersburg to seek reinforcements and supplies from Danville or Lynchburg to sustain the Confederate cause. Lee planned to join General Johnston's forces in North Carolina to defeat General Sherman and prevent Sherman and Grant from joining forces. To break the Union lines east of Petersburg and link up with Johnston, Lee accepted a proposal from Major John B. Gordon to attack the Union Fort Stedman. On March 25th, the attack initially succeeded, capturing the fort and 3 batteries. But the Confederates were soon caught in deadly crossfire as General Parke launched a counterattack, inflicting 2,900 casualties. This was a crushing defeat for Lee's army. The Confederates were in chaos as key cities, including their capital, faced imminent capture. On April 3rd, Richmond fell as Lee's defenses crumbled after the Battle of Five Forks, which not only decimated thousands of Confederate soldiers, but also cut Lee's last supply line, causing more desertion, disease, and starvation. When Lee abandoned Richmond and Petersburg, his army retreated along the Richmond and Danville Railroad, but they were still in deep trouble as they tried to outpace the Union Army with severely limited supplies. Still, the Confederates pushed on through exhausting night marches, aiming to reach supply trains in Farmville, Virginia. Many gave their lives covering Lee's escape, hoping to keep the fight alive. Unfortunately, Union forces captured crucial supplies at Farmville, further squeezing Lee's army. On the evening of April 7th, Lee received a letter from Grant demanding surrender. The letter stated that recent events proved further resistance was futile and urged Lee to surrender to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Lee responded by acknowledging the desire to stop the fighting, but asked for terms before agreeing to surrender. Hoping to reach Appomattox Station before being trapped, Lee sent the letter asking about the conditions Grant might offer. Making the Confederate situation worse, Union cavalry under George Custer seized a supply train and 25 guns at Appomattox Station, blocking Lee's route and depriving him of supplies. Yet on the morning of April 9th, Lee still hoped his men could break through the thin Union cavalry lines, find food, and continue fighting southward. However, the cavalry line held, and the Confederates were surrounded on 3 sides, outnumbered, out of supplies, and without hope of reinforcements. Surrounded by Union cavalry and infantry ahead, 2 Union corps behind, and the Army of the James enclosing them, Lee realized all resistance was over and escape impossible. He said, "There is nothing left for me to do but to go and see General Grant, and I would rather die 1,000 deaths." Lee wrote Grant requesting a meeting to negotiate surrender terms as fighting continued, even amid communication exchanges. Just before noon, Lee sent a message requesting a halt to fighting pending surrender talks. The home of Wilmer McLean, which had been Confederate headquarters during the first major Civil War battle at Bull Run nearly 4 years earlier, was chosen for the negotiations. Lee arrived first at 1 p.m., dressed in his finest uniform, accompanied by Colonel Charles Marshall. Grant, suffering from a headache, arrived late wearing a muddy private's uniform with only his shoulder straps showing his rank. The generals were courteous, sharing memories of their service during the Mexican War. Grant's terms were generous, reflecting his later approach as president. Lee's 28,000-strong Army of Northern Virginia would surrender at 3 p.m., allowing soldiers to keep personal belongings and horses. Accepting the terms General Grant had proposed in his letter the day before, the Confederates, except for their officers, laid down their weapons. After signing paroles, they were allowed to return home. Grant also permitted the men to keep their horses and provided much-needed rations to the starving soldiers.